Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Today's numbers are about 4 times higher than what the CDC reported just 6 days ago.
Oh, no.
Our estimates, we believe, give us a better estimate of how much disease, hospitalization, and death there is.
The government now believes roughly 8 million children have come down with the virus. In addition to the 540 who have died, 36,000 have been hospitalized. Among adults 18 to 64, there were an estimated 12 million cases, 53,000 hospitalizations, and almost 3,000 deaths.
What we are seeing in 2009 is unprecedented.
But the agency insists the outbreak hasn't actually worsened. Instead, the numbers now include cases that previously had been missed.
We have underreporting of cases for several reasons. Not all patients who actually die from this are detected, meaning that they don't even realize the hospital has what they have. In some cases, they suspect it but can't confirm it because the right tests weren't done. Or third of all, because of the fact that it just doesn't get into the system.
Still, the 3,900 estimated deaths are only about 1/10 of what we usually see in a typical entire flu season.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to Dr. Amjad. First of all, me and my groupmate would like to thank Dr. Amjad for giving us the chance to have a proper presentation for our final project. My name is Irfan Zikri bin Muhammad Ayub and I am from Group J, and now we will be presenting Government and Ministry of Health strategies in handling influenza H1N1 outbreak in Malaysia and Malaysians' perception towards the pandemic. Now, I would like to introduce our group member, which consists of me, Irfan Zikri bin Muhammad Ayub, Abdul Aziz Kusani bin Asafal, Muhammad Afizuddin Muhammad Zaid, Muhammad Zulhanif bin Cik Mat Zaid, Muhammad Nasrullah bin Sharizal, and Muhammad Shahril Iqmal bin Nasrun. Now is the introduction part. First and foremost, for the introduction part, we would like to emphasize the introduction gap for our report. Introduction gap is where we can differentiate the difference between our research from the previous researcher. This is because we want to show or we want to prove the originality of our research. So, the previous researcher have been working on the same area of the pandemic. They might have made a lot of contribution to the society by pointing out the actions taken by the government on handling the influenza at the government level, which we can see according to Jim. He said that the Ministry of Health at that time, which is Datuk Seri Liu Tiang Lai, has advised the public to wear a face mask if you have any flu symptoms present. And other than that, it has been discussed also the strategies to encounter the pandemic situation, which also we can see according to Christopher. He said that Malaysia has developed a national influenza pandemic preparedness plan, which is NIPPP, which serves as a guide for preparedness and response plans for any influenza pandemic. So from this example from the previous literature, how we want to prove or want to differentiate our research is different from the previous researcher is that in our research we have the perceptions of Malaysians towards the pandemic, which has not been discussed yet from the other or the previous researcher. So that's all for the introduction part. I would like to pass the floor to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abdul Aziz Kursani and I will be presenting the problem statement. As we all know, H1N1 pandemic had infected the global society 11 years ago. From that, a lot of problem arises which we will be investigating in this research. So firstly is the problem with the government and Ministry of Health of Malaysia was not handling the pandemic effectively. This is proven when there are 12,000 cases recorded, and among them there are 77 cases of death. These numbers are very high and shows how severe it infected the society. Even though the rate of death is very low, but every lives matter. Next is Standard Operating Procedures. SOP was not practiced by the Malaysian society. The SOP includes wearing face masks, avoiding crowded places, and staying at home. Neglecting the standard operating procedures will lead to increase in positive cases and the worst case scenario, which is death. Lastly is increase the number of infected each day in Malaysia. This is mainly caused by the neglection of SOP among our Malaysian and non-effective strategies, which is led by the government. By knowing the ways to overcome our problems, we will be prepared to face any pandemics that occur in the distant future, thus keeping our society stay peaceful and healthy while striving for our life every day.
So for the next part is inquiry questions. We have 3 inquiry questions. The first one is, what are the causes of influenza H1N1 and how it causes a pandemic situation in Malaysia? Second is, what are the standard operating procedures that were practiced by the Malaysian society? And the last one is, what are the psychological impacts of influenza H1N1 on Malaysian societies? And next part is the objectives of the study. We also have 3 objectives of the study. The first one is to study the causes of influenza H1N1 and how it resulted to pandemic situation. Second is to identify the safety precautions being implemented by the Malaysian before the existence of the vaccine. And the last one is to investigate the psychological impacts of influenza H1N1 towards Malaysian society. So that I pass the floor of this presentation to Nas.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Nasrullah and I will proceed for part research design or methods. For this research, we implemented the quantitative method and using online survey as a medium to gather data. We think this method is suitable because we can measure the data from the survey statistically. The survey is spread by using social media such as Instagram and WhatsApp. The survey was distributed mostly to our friends. However, the targeted respondent for the survey is the people who born below 2008, but preferably the elder family member. The survey was done from 28th of October until 9th of November 2020. Next, in the survey, the questionnaire included is a closed-ended question. The survey is optional and scale type of answer, as it will be easier to analyze and interpret the data. For the demographics part, we asked the respondent for their age and their location. Besides that, the question also asks about their experience with H1N1 influenza, whether they get infected or not. If the respondent did get infected, they have to answer how long does it take to recover. The survey also asks about the precaution taken where the respondents are given a few choice of answer that they have to vote. It is to identify what are the most precaution taken by the Malaysian during the pandemic, and also the survey asks about the psychological impacts from the pandemic. In this part, the respondents are given multiple choice of answer such as fear, anxiety, so on and so forth. This will allow us to analyze and study the psychological impact of the pandemic. Lastly, the respondent need to state their opinion on whether the government strategies in handling the pandemic was effective or not. They are given 5 choices, where 5 is strongly agree and 1 is strongly disagree. This allows us to come with the conclusion whether the government is the cause of the nation's survivability or not. That being said, I will pass the floor to Hafizuddin.
Hello, my name is Hafizuddin. I will be presenting the findings and discussion from our research project. The discussion made based on 3 hypotheses that we proposed. The first one, Safety precautions positively and significantly impacts on the number of infected people. From the survey, the results are shown in the table and pie chart on the left side. Next, after conducting regression analysis, the data are as the table in the right side. The p-value that we obtained is 0.026, which is lesser than alpha value, which is 0.25. This means that both variables are statistically significant to each other. The magnitude of the impact of safety precautions implemented on the number of infected people is 5.056%. Therefore, this data proves that the hypothesis 1 is accepted. The safety precautions of Malaysians back then does help to decrease the number of cases. Second hypothesis, government approaches positively and significantly impacts on infected people. Data from the survey is used to make the regression analysis. From the analysis, p-value is 0.22, which is bigger than alpha value of 0.05. This means that both variables statistically not significant to each other. Thus, we can straight away come out that the hypothesis is rejected, despite of the fact that government implemented many strategies and approaches to tackle down the pandemic situation in Malaysia. The strategies are not effective enough to decrease the number of cases in Malaysia. For the last hypothesis, psychological impact positively and significantly impacts on infected people. For the survey, the psychological impacts is determined from three main categories, which is fear, anxiety, and depression. And from the regression analysis, p-value obtained is 0.8389, which is bigger than 0.05. This means that both variables statistically not significant to each other. Thus, from the analysis, we can come out that hypothesis is rejected. This indicates that the psychological impacts experienced by Malaysians back then does not bring much impact on the infected people. That's all from me. I will pass the floor to Syaril for the conclusion part.
I'm Syaril, and now I'm gonna present our research conclusion. We always must remember that things could always be better, but things could always be worse. So, for the part, our research aim is to examine the role played by Malaysia, either the government side or its people. The problem statement of our research is that the ineffectiveness of Malaysian government and the peoples on handling the pandemic in the past. The importance of our study is to improve the effectiveness of handling pandemic in future. Thus, the slackness of strategies in the past had been identified. So what pandemic brings to us, it causes death, create economic crisis, create chaos, and also cause psychological effect. Therefore, our main concern is to increase the effectiveness of government in handling the pandemic by improving strategies or initiatives so that the impact of the pandemics to our countries can be reduced. This research has successfully collected feedback on whether people satisfied with government strategies during pandemic happened in the past. This research also revealed the slackness or weakness from the past that can be improved in future. Further action needs to be taken to revise available strategies in handling the pandemic. We always must remember that early actions are important. Our hope is that Malaysia, either the government or its people, will be prepared mentally and physically whenever the pandemic hit in futures. I also want to explain about the introduction in our video. That the video in the introduction is to highlight the impact that pandemic could bring to us. So that's all from us. Thank you.